Yeah, I think very much so. Like, there's been videos floating around recently of like Tupac, right? And him in his younger years, and the way that he speaks in those younger years is almost, dare I say, feminine in how he talks. And
Yeah.
then they say that he went on the movie Juice, in which he played the character Bishop. And then once he played Bishop, he never got out of that character. And then came the
Oh,
notion of
interesting.
Tupac, Thug Life, and he just never broke from that, which I guess
Yeah.
ultimately it was an ego sabotage, as he, ultimately met his death. Uh,
Um,
it's your boy, SOSO Jew, and I am in the building. And welcome to another episode of the My 5 Cents podcast. Let me go ahead and introduce the cast of characters. To my that way, I got HLS.
Habitual line stepper in the building. What's up, everybody?
What's going on, man?
Oh man, a lot going on. Too much going on, but I'm here. We here. Let's do
Yeah,
it.
we here. All right, and to my bottom, I got Logical Genius.
What's up, everyone? The logical one is in the building, ready to roll for another episode.
And welcome to another episode of the My 5 Cents podcast, the only podcast that brings on a guest, establishes their credibility, and turns them into a judge as we determine who is the winner for the topic for the week. And our topic this week is what, HLS?
So ways your ego get you in trouble.
Yeah, we're going to be talking about the signs that your ego is sabotaging you. And I feel like you're primed for this, HLS. It feels like very much HLS territory when it comes to
What are you
this
trying to
topic.
say? I got a big ego?
I mean, big is an understatement. I feel
I
like
mean,
when I was putting this list together, I just had a picture of you, like just right there, just to look at it, and then
listen,
I was just putting my
Beyonce
list
wrote a
together.
song about how big my ego is, so I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that.
Yeah, and Kanye wrote a remix, and I know you and Kanye are tight. Like, he's come up a few times on a couple of your lists. So,
Yeah.
so let's go ahead and introduce our guest. And our guest is nationally recognized clinical hypnotherapist, transformational healer, and spiritual teacher with over 12 years of experience helping people break subconscious patterns, heal deep rooted trauma, and uncover their true selves. You may have seen her as the holistic therapist on TLC's 90 Days, The Last Resort, and she's also the author of Affirmations for a Peaceful Life and the host of Ignite the Spark Within podcast. Please welcome to the My 5 Cents podcast, Sarah Spark Malone. Welcome.
What's
Hi,
up, Sarah?
guys. Thank
Hey,
you. And
Sam.
listening to all of you guys, I feel like we're going to have a good topic, a good discussion on the ego.
Oh,
Boy,
we are
I feel like it's gonna be a
going to
therapy
be,
session.
yeah, we're going to lean right into the ego. So,
Hey, you didn't sign any waivers, but
No,
you agreed
don't
to
do that.
record with me, so that's enough.
that's it. That's it. So, Sarah, let me hit you with the icebreaker. What is your superpower and how's it assisted you in your journey?
Oh, that's a good question. I think my superpower is seeing through to the kind of like the deeper aspects of people when they're telling me things. So it helps me in my work for sure. Whereas a lot of people, I think they think they're talking about the problem or what they want to be talking about, but they're always something a little bit deeper. Kind of talking about the ego here. And that's really what comes up in that. And that's my superpower is seeing into the deeper layers.
With that, seeing into the deeper layers, is everybody just a facade of their inner self, or are they really truly, I guess, a representative of their inner self in your purview?
It's hard to say what is my true self for each individual because that's going to be so different. But most of the time, I would say 90% of the time, 90% of people are operating from just a concept of themselves rather than their true selves. I don't think we're really taught how to live and embody and express our true selves. It's mostly just masks here and there, things we've picked up along the way. And like that's what the ego is. That's the nature of the ego, really, is that animalistic part to instinctually move through life rather than intuitively move through life.
Ooh, what's the difference between the two?
Good question. So the intuitive part would be more the aspect of the true self, right? I'm moving in a flow with my world rather than by need that I think of protection or survival or getting what I want. And that's the instincts. So like the ego being the animalistic part, mainly instinctual, I get what I want or I think that I need right now in this very moment. And I operate from that place rather than intuitively moving like in a way of need, like what does my soul need and what would love do also for the rest of also other people.
Wow. Let me ask this, Sarah. Where do you, and we're touching on ego, and that's what today's topic is about. How do you think people develop egos? Like, I mean, that's probably like a very open-ended question, right? There's many ways, but like from your perspective, like what do you think is like the main culprit or some of the main culprits like involved in someone's ego getting to where it gets to, in some instances?
Being human.
Okay. That's
Every
real.
every single human has an ego, and we all have different experiences. And the way that we kind of interpret these experiences, I mean, listen, two people could go through the same experience and have two totally different manifestations of what that looks like in their lives,
Hmm.
right? And that's because we also have conscious choice.
Yeah.
But the ego is developed over time just by living this human experience, and we get to choose like how that adapts and um, how we form into that rather than well, what happens is it starts to form us. The ego starts to form us.
So a quick follow-up to that then. Do you think you mentioned that like it's you have choices. So do you think those of us who have like a really, I guess, bad ego or perceived to be a bad ego, like we just made a lot of bad choices in our lives to develop this ego to where it is? Is that what you're saying?
No, and I don't think that there's like you have a bigger ego than I do, or I have a bigger
Okay.
one than you do. I just think that it expresses differently,
Okay.
and sometimes it really, really gets us, like it really ensnares us, like it literally
Mhm.
enslaves us. And I was just talking about this the other day, like are we a slave to the ego, or are we the master of the ego? And so it just depends on like how enslaved am I. Not so much is my ego bigger than yours, or is
Mhm.
or how do I get a smaller ego or whatever, that how do I just become more free, how do I become less enslaved by it? And
I see.
I think our values shape that a lot too, because you see like again, different experiences affect us in different ways. One person can go through a divorce and they're like, I'm good, this empowered
Mhm.
me.
Mhm.
And another person goes through divorce and they're like, my whole world fell
Polar
apart,
opposite.
and
Yeah.
that comes down to just their values, and then their ego will create the story based on those values and then kind of start moving in that direction.
Oh, it's interesting.
Wow.
It's almost as if it's a good tool.
It is
Oh,
a
look at
very you're the first person who's pointed that out, but yeah, there's a lot of misconceptions about the ego. But the ego really is, well, it's first of all, it's what makes us human.
yeah,
And
yeah.
number two, when utilized, integrated, and harmonized in that way, it is a great tool. We need it. We need it.
What's so? No, go ahead, Logic, because you see something else.
No. I was gonna. Sorry, that was interesting because like it's a tool. So how do you, if you can recognize it, right? And not a lot of people can. How do you effectively use it then, or how can you effectively use it?
Well, the ego is carries a lot of gifts as well, and it's our ability to feel. It's our ability to have emotions. It's
Mhm.
our ability to carry and express creative energy. It's when we allow those things to really like define our entire world and us as people and others as people and who we are in relationship with them,
Mhm.
that we
Mhm.
get into trouble. But it can actually bring us really deep into relationship with people. It can let us experience vulnerability. And my favorite saying is know thyself, right?
Mm.
The ego will help you
Okay.
know yourself really, really well. And if I know that I don't do well with manipulative people, I'm going to stay away from manipulative people. Like I'm on the lookout for that, right? My ego will alarm me. It'll be like,
Yeah.
hey, red flag, like
Like spider
there's
senses or something like that.
yes, yes. And we trust that, right? Like, hey, something's not right here. The ego will also communicate via the body. So if I'm getting a signal in my body, like if you we've all been around people where like you just don't feel good being around them.
Yeah.
You're like, I don't know, I just get antsy, I get anxious, I don't want to be around you. That's your ego's way of saying like, yeah, move away or move out of that
Interesting.
situation.
You know, you said everyone has an ego, and sometimes it could be helpful or as topic of the day, it can sabotage us. What is so satisfying when we see people have their ego brought down to size, right? When it's a boxing match and someone always talking smack, and then they get knocked out in the first couple of seconds, or there's like a Karen situation where they feel like they're better than everyone else, and then they start crying. We're like, oh no, it wasn't me, blah blah blah, whatever, whatever. What is so satisfying if everyone has an ego? What is so satisfying about watching someone get their ego taken down a peg or two?
Well, I think nobody likes arrogance,
Mm.
right? And I think it feels good to see justice. I think humility, like being humbled in that way, is a form of divine justice, in a way of like, don't get too high on yourself,
Mm.
because there's always a balancing um, act in, there's always a balancing nature of the way the universe works. And I think we like to see that justice. We like to see justice carried out rather than it exerted in a way where it's like, oh, that actually kind of sucks. You know, like I don't want justice carried out where somebody like dies.
Yeah, yeah,
But for
yeah.
you to get your ego in check, yeah, I like that because you're in a
Yeah,
threat.
I mean, HLS, I could have answered that question for you. I mean, I see that every week when we record and you're put in third place. It's just so satisfying to
Oh,
see that HLS, that ego just get brought down a little bit there. You know, it's that divine justice.
yeah, but
So,
on the flip side of that, though, how we feel when somebody who's vulnerable or innocent or maybe like the underdog gets hurt or, unjustly, something unjust happening. Like there's a humanity at us that goes, no, that's not right. That sucks. I hate that.
You know what? I don't think my co-hosts have that nurturing part of
Yeah.
themselves. There is none of that. There's none of that.
So the
I
ego
am
is sabotaging them, is
constantly.
what you're saying.
Maybe. I think you're picking up what I'm
Cool.
putting down, Sarah.
Uh-huh.
so Sarah, we talked about ego, and I want to talk about a subset of the ego, which is the alter ego, right? I think famous enough, Beyonce, she has an alter ego when she's on stage. She is Sasha Fierce when she is on stage. I have my birth name, and then when I come on this podcast, I'm So Juve, the alter ego. Do
Mm-hmm.
you find it beneficial, or should everyone create an alter ego, an alter, I guess, a version of themselves? Is that something beneficial, or are you just kind of distorting truths or reality by doing so?
I think that's a great question, actually. And I've never gotten this question before, but I think it could be a huge asset, right? I think that this is part of the fun of being human is we get to do that. We get to kind of make our own rules sometimes. Well, a lot of the times. Um, Having an alter ego can be very beneficial, unless it turns out to be like who is the actor in Joker that
Heath Ledger.
Heath
Heath Ledger.
Ledger.
Yeah.
Okay, until we go too far, and then it's like now I'm lost in this identity. So I think as long as we can, and I actually have alter egos or like roles for different categories of my life, right? Like I'm a certain I'm Mama Spark in my business in my community. I'm another one for my family. I'm another
Yeah.
one for friends. It helps me anyways to get into a certain mode that I wouldn't. What it's an intentional way to show up in that area. I think when we get lost in the identity and we actually take it on, we think that is who we are. I think that's when we cross into ego sabotage. But we can use the ego. We can use the ego to aid us in things. I think that's a great way to do it.
Yeah, I think very much so. Like, there's been videos floating around recently of like Tupac, right? And him in his younger years, and the way that he speaks in those younger years is almost, dare I say, feminine in how he talks. And
Yeah.
then they say that he went on the movie Juice, in which he played the character Bishop. And then once he played Bishop, he never got out of that character. And then came the
Oh,
notion of
interesting.
Tupac, thug life, and he just never broke from that, which I guess
Yeah.
ultimately it was an ego sabotage, as he, ultimately met his death. So it's so,
Interesting.
yeah, it's so interesting, the alter ego piece to it.
Well, and I think here's the kicker with that. I think in order for us to successfully, healthfully do that, we have to have some base of our own true identity outside of that first. Otherwise, I'm just like, who am I? Let me just make up and take on all these sort of identities along the way that feel good in that moment, having no true, like, true north,
Yeah.
true, like, rock to stand on.
Understood. It's interesting because we were talking alter egos. We did do a recording with Adez, in which we spoke about code switching in the workplace, and it's almost like, is that us just creating another alter ego of ourselves, our work version of ourselves, and,
I'm
and
not
and being
familiar with code switching.
Mm.
so code switching is like, I might be talking to you
Now
one
I'm
way
learning
here.
something.
Yeah, I might be talking to you one way here, but at work it's gonna be more like, "Hey, hello, how's it going, guys? Everything's okay? Yes."
Yeah. Yeah.
Whereas where I'm out in my field, yo, what up, my guys? What's
That's
going on, man? Like I'm
That was a
switching it.
great switch,
that's
by
a
the way. That
big
was
switch.
real
That's more like a
drastic.
betrayal that you what
It
you
was
just
like
did.
way over here and way
Yeah,
over here.
yes, yes. Hey, this is
Yeah.
So Juice speaking. How's it going?
Yeah, wow. Well, the thing is, right, is the ego is not just a one thing. It's not like me and then my ego. Ego is made up of so many different parts. The ego operates in a system of parts, like multiplicity. So we may be able to, and this is actually a great way to do it, to be call on a certain egoic part because we need it in this moment. So right now, if let's just say I'm a mom or something. Okay, right now I need my nurturing part to really show up. So I go into nurturing. When I'm at work, I need like my leadership, right? So my leadership part's going to come on. So it's not just like that we are now, oh, now you're not your true self. I mean, ultimately, that's technically all ourselves. It's just different parts of us. We are so multifaceted as beings.
Fair. Fair.
Interesting. Let me pivot a little bit. What kind of going back to um, your knowledge and your teachings on spirituality. You're also into physical fitness, right? If anyone's, I encourage you to check out Sarah's Instagram page. She's a very fit person, muscular. It makes me kind of embarrassed to take off my
Thank
shirt, even to
you.
take a shower. But do you see a connection between spiritual, I guess, fitness, if you want to call it that, and physical fitness, and how big of a connection do you think that is, and do you think people kind of underestimate that connection?
The connection of the body
Yeah, the body and the mind. Yeah, I guess.
is that I think it's very underestimated. I think that a lot of times people don't realize that it all blends into one. It's not like I have my body bucket over here, my spirit bucket over here,
Yeah.
and my mental emotional bucket. It is all leads into one. As a matter of fact, I mentioned before, the ego does communicate via the body. So, I've had clients who did all the right things as far as working out, eating right, moving, doing checking off all the right tasks and still could not lose weight. And that is because their spiritual fitness, mental emotional fitness was resisting that or holding on to something. So our subconscious mind will store these thoughts of like um I let's just take the saying of like I'm carrying the weight of the world. I've literally had
Okay.
women say that. I feel like I'm carrying the weight of the world. And they walk around with that belief. And guess what your body does? It holds on to weight. It carries the weight of the world.
Set up. Oh my goodness.
Seriously. And then once we kind of like heal that thought process, the subconscious thought process, guess what happens? Their body
Stop
releases
it.
the weight.
What?
Wow.
So I'm carrying weight for no reason?
No, that's
Well, the ice cream you've been eating, that's why
he
you
just
carry
got
it.
permission. That's all he
The weight
heard
of the
from what I
world,
said.
baby.
His
You
ego
have
just
reasons,
heard.
Julie.
No
You have reasons. Is
wonder.
that pizza slice? Is that hot dog you just ate? Yep, it's all that.
It's the weight of the world. He's spelling Carvel wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So yes, it is all absolutely connected. I mean, 98% of physical problems have a psycho-spiritual cause. And so I do believe that, you know, our physical fitness does match our spiritual fitness in that way, and vice versa.
So let me ask you this.
That was a great
Before we
question, by the way.
Thank you.
Yes, it was. It was. Before we transition on, you were on 90 Days Last Resort. Now, very much so, we talk about ego, and then you have this, I would call this alternate universe, which is reality TV. How does the ego play, or did you see a switch when the cameras are on versus when the cameras are off?
Always. For everybody, I think that's the case. I think that there's some level of, like we talked about, alter ego that comes into play. And that's just for everybody, you know? And I think that's just part of the interesting thing that's happening in the world right now is like everybody always has their phones. Everybody's cameras,
Seriously.
right? And it makes
Seriously.
people act different. It does. I don't know how to avoid that unless you are supremely enlightened. You know, when there's cameras on, things change. Things get more heightened. You become more aware. You also become more, the tendency to shift more into a highly egoic place goes way up, because it's all about me. The cameras are on me. I'm the center of attention, right? The ego loves that.
Well, Sarah, that was the perfect segue into our next segment, which we are really going to get into some heightened egotistic egoism. Let go of my ego. All of it is about to go down in this next
The
segment
judge.
of the show. So, logical
This is like the
genius.
one place I get permission to judge.
Yes,
Yes.
you do.
Yeah.
That's the
Yes,
beauty
you
This is
of
do.
not
the
a judge-free
show.
zone. This is not a judge-free
Not
zone.
at all. We
Not at all.
embrace the judging. So,
I love it.
logical, please explain to Sarah what's about to happen next.
All right, Sarah. We're gonna get into the melting pot, I would say. HLS, Soso Juve, and I are going to present to you our 5 cents on the top 5 reasons why a person's ego is sabotaging you, or your ego is sabotaging you. We are each going to present to you our list. You get to pick who goes first, who goes second, who goes last, and at the end of it, you get to decide who's in third place. We don't care about second place. And we want to know who the first place winner is. Very simple, right?
I'm ready for that. I'm definitely ready
Alright.
for that.
Now, you said simple, but there is a criteria for judging. And HLS, please explain what the criteria for judging is.
Yeah, as we discussed earlier, your ego can help in many different ways. There's different types of ego at play. But for this show, there's really none of that.
None.
You might choose me because my head is so big, it can't contain my ego.
Oh, my
And
goodness.
that's why you choose me number one.
He's actually sitting 20 feet away from the camera. That's how big it is, right?
You might choose me because I came on time for this recording.
Oh,
Oh,
you might choose me because I feel like we're connected spiritually by animals. I know you have a dog named Thor, and I think your dog's a Shiba Inu, right? And I
wow.
think I
Whoa.
have a Shiba Inu that I picked up from daycare earlier today, who is give me some ego vibes because they are a little egotistical, these Shibinos. But totally up to you.
Sarah, do not fall
No,
for it. Don't fall for it, Sarah. Okay, he's playing on the string. Don't fall for it.
Oh yeah, he's smart. He's good.
Whatever criteria you choose, it's completely up to you. But your first decision, Sarah, you get to decide who goes first.
We're going to go ahead and start with you.
Okay. Okay. So, as we discussed earlier in the show, my 5 cents goes like this. Oh, sorry. As we discussed earlier in the show, the whole song was written about me and my ego by Beyonce. It was a hit single. I don't know if you heard it. I don't know if you heard it.
Hold on, I got to get my notes. I'm ready to take notes right now.
Now,
And
take copious notes. Well, while he's
yeah.
speaking, take copious notes, please.
I'm going to start with a -2 for the tardiness today.
So Joe, spell copious.
COPIOUS.
And number 5, my 5 cents, Sarah, goes like this. Your ego can sabotage you if you become too complacent, right? The ego tells yourself, you know what? I've already achieved enough. I've done enough. I don't need to do anymore. I don't need to strive for better. I don't need to do more things for my relationship. I don't need to do things for work or for I've done enough. Done enough. Number 4, become defensive. Kind of like I've done enough. You can't take criticism. You avoid new ideas. Become defensive. And number 3, you can be arrogant. You can be arrogant. And nobody likes arrogant people. So it suffers in your relationships. The way you walk could be arrogant. The way you talk could be arrogant. Nobody likes arrogant people. And number 2, I kind of touched upon this a little bit, but you're afraid to ask for help. Your ego can limit you in a way that you're afraid to ask for help. You stop learning. There's so many missed opportunities because you think you know it all. And number 1, and this might be my downfall, a little true confessional therapy session with you, Sarah. I always walk in this show, every single episode, thinking my list is fire. And for some reason, I'm not chosen number 1. Am I overconfident? Is that my fatal flaw? Is that my number 1 fatal flaw, Sarah? That my ego tells me I'm overconfident?
Or you want me to respond? Or
oh no, you can say it again. You can choose me as number 1 when you're done. When you're done.
I'm just kidding.
Yeah, you know how to respond to that, Sarah. You know.
And that, Sarah, is my 5 cents and how your ego can sabotage you. Who do you want to hear from?
Good 5 cents? Were you reading directly from ChatGPT or?
That was
he loves Google. It's Google, actually. He loves some Google.
I'm just kidding. That's good. That's pretty good, actually, I will say.
Who do you want to hear from next?
I'm going to go with the logical genius here.
Oh, my spirit animal friend.
Yeah.
My fellow pet parent. So that was a pretty interesting list, Sarah.
Do you smell that? Do you smell that, Social Juice? Because I smell bullshit somewhere.
It smells like a lot of pet bullshit going on.
Oh no, we will. When the cameras are off, I will bring my Shiba Inu and have him say hello. Sarah, that was an interesting list by HLS. You can see why he's constantly in 3rd place on the show. So at number 5, I agree with so, and I think this is kind of tied into your number 4 to some degree. But I think your ego causes you to resist or even reject any kind of feedback from people. And I truly believe that. And before I start, interestingly enough, when I was putting this list together, I'm like, man, I started looking at myself in the mirror. And I'm like, is this me? Is this, am I talking to myself at this point? But yeah, I feel like feedback is important for a person's growth, right? And if you're not willing to accept and open yourself for input and feedback from others, you're essentially stunting your growth as a person, as an individual, as a human being. mentally, spiritually, all of that. So I think impacting your ability to accept or respond or reject feedback is number 5. At number 4, I think start to take things very, very personally. I think your ego starts to cloud your judgment, and you start to take even any kind of like neutral criticism or input as an attack on you, right? So you're constantly in to what HLS is saying, defense mode, right? So you're taking anything that you're given as an attack. That's my number 4. At number 3, I think your ego, and we know a lot of people, and I'm guilty of this in some instances, and especially in this show, you always think you're right, right? You prioritize winning and being right over everything else in your life because winning is more important than anything. So rather than being in a situation where you can help resolve an issue or find the best solution for something, you just want to win because you just want to win, and that's it, because that's your ego driving you. At number 2, I have it it causes you to overestimate your importance, like your level of importance. I think a good example is that you think you're like the main star of the show, right? You think everything revolves around you, everyone revolves around you. You walk in the door, everyone's looking at you, they're waiting for you. You know, I have people who I work with like that. Sometimes I kick in the door to a meeting and I'm like, yeah, everyone look at me when I really don't want them to look at me, as if I'm the big shot, right? So that, I think that's really, really dangerous. Because you cause yourself to kind of lack humility, and be having humility and being humble is I think is critical to being a good person, being a trusting person. And then number 1, you actually touched on this in our interview section of the show. I think people mistake their ego for their true selves. It drives your ego drives what you do, but not necessarily who you are. So you kind of get lost in who you truly are because your ego is this engine or this fuel that's driving you to do things and crave things and go after the other 4 things that I mentioned. And you start to realize, like, this isn't really who I am. This isn't who I want to be. But because that's such a powerful tool that you have, that it's taking over you and you don't know how to use it. So number 1 for me is that you mistake your ego for your true self. So Sarah, that's my 5 cents on why your ego is sabotaging you.
Wow.
This is interesting. I
That
can't wait.
was pretty good.
Yeah, I can't wait to talk about this list stuff. But before we do that, let me go ahead and deliver my 5 cents on the top 5
Okay, here we
signs your
go, So.
ego is sabotaging you. So once again, So Juve in the building. And at number 5, I have too many I statements. When you are making too many I statements, you are forgetting about you are forgetting about we, you are forgetting about us. At number 4, unequal distribution of credit. So a team member might do something right, but you're claiming credit for, hey, I'm the reason why the team did this. Or if the team does something wrong, you're quick to blame. So you're passing on the credit, or the credit that we don't want to hear, by doing that. At number 3, and I think that everybody's talked about like when the ego's too big. But how about when the ego's too small and you might skip out on opportunities? So maybe even things that you've done before, like, hey, applied for a job to get a promotion or something like that. But because your ego isn't big enough and you don't feel that worth or self worth, you skip out on opportunities. Number 2, this is definitely a telltale sign of your ego sabotaging you, is if you're surrounded by yes people. If you don't have people conflicting with you or having the ability to say no to you, there's probably something going on with your ego and it's not in check. And at number 1, and I am shocked that it wasn't on these 2 guys' list. I'm shocked. And that is the inability to apologize. Your ego's so big. It's hurtful to even say the words "I'm sorry." And if you can't say I'm sorry, oh man, your ego is completely out of control. So that is my 5 cents on the topic. What's going to happen next, Sarah, is next week we're going to get into a little bit of what we like to call cross examination, where you get to poke a little bit of holes at each other and you get to deliberate and decide on who is in third place and who is in first place. So until then, this is our 5 cents. Peace.